Hi everyone. I may have to stop my video while I speak. It depends on how good my Wi-Fi is. It usually only lets me speak or be seen. It's like one or the other. But thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much to Emer. Thank you so much to the Murray family and for everyone for supporting tonight. Um, I am so grateful for the opportunity to be here and to have the opportunity to write. All summer, really like getting just permission to do the thing I love to do the most. And I'm so grateful for that. I have never read anything out before. I've never performed anything out before, so this is just really big experience for me. So I really appreciate that as well. The piece I'm reading tonight is kind of disrupting the rhythm a bit. It's a short story, and it's about the internet, which might as well be a bit ironic when we're doing everything over Zoom. But one thing is just has really just blown me away tonight to witness so much talent, even over Zoom. I'm very wonderfully and terribly intimidated at the same time. So thank you so much for listening. Um, yeah, I'll just go over it. Um, it's called a rabbit hole as well, just in case if necessary. A woman shadows beneath the neon sign that enters the cafe to the street. Damp hands fumbling tobacco that lands miserably in its rolling paper. If someone was to look at her any closer as the lighter clicked at her mouth, they would see she was neither fully a woman nor really a smoker at all. An uncertainty about the world or the sturdiness of what she was holding, perhaps both, betrays her age as barely 20. She carries herself with the same air of any person who had grown up as interneted, precocious, as if under constant surveillance, in a performance that is as arrogant as it is exhaustingly self conscious. She has 3,164 followers on Instagram, more on Twitter. It is a private belief that this means she is much more intelligent than pretty. She isn't sure if she likes this idea and often scrolls through her profiles to see how she is perceived by others. This dissociation is never really something productive, just a further degree of separation from herself. She has a deepening groove on the inside of her right pinky finger from the weight of her phone at rest. With a hairline crack right through the center, pieces of glass are left together like when she scrolls. Sometimes the pain of this requires her to pick the shards from her fingers like thorns, and she panics when she tears away too much flesh at once, as if someday she will come apart like the rinds of an orange. Ashing the cigarette awkwardly with her foot, she turns to push the glass doors behind her and falls into place that passed its prime around the advent of the iPad. It's an internet cafe, one scrambling to rebrand as a quirky space that serves artisan coffee and online privacy to the most disillusioned of digital citizens. Most often alone, each assumes their place in a private and worn red booth, an unironic parody of the American diner when graffitied and disintegrating in a dark cafe in Quirk City. Keelan, how are things? A nod and greeting implies Keelan is someone with things to get on with. Briefly managing and not too bad, how are you getting on, Paul? In a monotone that swills the taste of smoke back around her tongue. Keelan likes Paul, the owner, a 40 something who was deported from New York during the Occupy movement and still struggles to speak about anything else besides. She watches him pass a mug of coffee across the counter to a man with a Q inscribed on the palm of his left hand. The rising steam causes the black ink to bleed into the lines, the tail pooling at his wrist. Keelan recognizes him as a regular, reads him as a man who is little power at work and too much at home. Distinct from others of his kind as he looks wealthy and ties his shirt sleeve with cufflinks awarded to private school graduates. The running ink stains the mug with his fingerprints when he places it on a corner table, the power button on the nearby monitor glowing green as it wears to attention. He will spend the day on forums dedicated to innumerable conspiracy theories, beliefs ranging from the inconsequential to the internally terroristic. The earth is flat, controlled by lizards and vaccines, held up by cults of Satanists and politicians. He will take the neurosis of the Capitol riots and transplant it onto Patrick Street, will regurgitate these talking points to family members from West Cork. It won't have to make sense as long as every day can be rationalized as aliens, rather than admitting life is just a series of random disasters. Commenting on the busyness of the place, Keelan scans the hunched shapes of the other patrons, dotted beneath exposed bulbs spaced like streetlights, and places two cereal bars on the counter. She exchanges with Paul €2.10 and small talk about the worsening weather before finding a table behind a girl in school uniform, scribbling stars in the margins of her notebook with white knuckles. The dull hum of the computer fan signals the desktop is already on. It just needs Keelan flick the mouse across the screen. Elsewhere, someone smacks at their keyboard furiously, a rhythm rounded by each slam of the enter key. She maneuvers her head from behind the monitor, finding the source in a man wearing his like a mask, face enveloped in blue light and boasting a 5 o'clock shadow beneath weary eyes. One headphone swings on the wire, the other held to his ear like the security detail to a president in dire straits. On screen, a greying academic points at vague statements that destroy the myth of modern day feminism. A purple vein bulges alarmingly at his temples as he does so. The viewer sometimes stops typing to provocatively crack each knuckle and survey the room with an intense hunger for confrontation. Today it does not come. It is not possible to sit at the mouth of the rabbit hole and not allow yourself to fall in. That much Keelan learned quickly. Maybe, she thinks while rattling the foil of a cereal bar, losing her appetite is a good sign. Her body doing the best it can to starve her out. A brief glance across the room as she returns to the screen is discomfiting, like looking across the crowd at a concert to find a sea of people grinning at their phone. No one ever looks at those videos again. Keelan often wonders who she is trying to prove herself to. She enters her password and watches the mouse spin as the page loads, eyes adjusting to the bright screen before angling the monitor closer. Her name, Alison Walker, 29, was created by a random generator. She is also Lucy483, Hannah_J, and Mia Ireland21. Each inbox has new messages to respond to. It is 6 months since Keelan created this ritual, and she already feels like the edges of herself are blurring. This exercise will be nameless to her until there is enough distance and time to make shame into a funny story. It often troubles her how quickly she can leave herself behind, as if the only thing keeping Keelan is this body carrying her through the world, barely fixed the ground. There are times when she will sink into this thing and stay there. It will photograph well and be shouted at from cars on the street and shared with strangers until it is severed into pieces. There are others when she wear it like her favourite outfit and it will feel like home. During these phases, when she arrives at the red booth she now sits in, she leaves within minutes. Her skin crawls and she will not return for weeks until she is so alarmed by the rigid ribbons of flesh keeping her together that she must escape again. When she enters these online profiles, each a slight distortion of the next, she is able to shake herself off like a winter coat. It makes her wonder how much of Keelan is a well practiced performance, and if she knew how to stop, who she would be underneath. She tries to treat this fracturing as productive, a way to window shop a better version of her with a total buy in her baggage. Is it not, after all, how social media works anyway? The more opinionated you types on Twitter, the prettiest and wildest posts on Instagram, the most professional writes in photoshops and comments on LinkedIn, while some amalgamated, omnipotent self divvies up hearts. At least here they have names. A teenage boy with his hood up and jaw clenched drops into the booth parallel to Keelan. He orders a large package of marijuana disguised in foil from a Dutch website and leaves abruptly. A pop-up offering student discounts still flashes in her peripheral vision as she draws her focus back to the screen, eyes dry from the small print. It is one of those days where she observes this place and feels guilt hammer on the walls of her stomach. A man with a comb-over forced into a fringe is describing the breakdown of his marriage through direct message. He's speaking to Mia, a made-up receptionist from Galway City, about the fact his wife is too busy with his children to ask him how his day went. She feels guilty because she should probably care, but instead she reads these messages like they are reports about next week's weather. She often wonders if a truly selfish person at least knows who they are trying to preserve, and tries to script her on for size. She thinks it fits when she finds herself hoping his wife leaves him. A lot of people's problems would be solved by speaking to each other, Keelan observes as she logs out of each account in a drawn out rhythm. There's a man bent over conspiracy theories that confirm nothing but how impossibly polarised the world has made us. There's the other that sits so close to the screen it threatens to swallow him whole, spoon feeding him misogyny veiled as some newfound economic theory. Or maybe we have left these people fester in the silence for far too long, and now complain about them like an impatient toddler when they turn somewhere else for answers. We've a bad habit of anthropomorphizing that which we hate to take responsibility for. Cue Keelan cleave the truth until it's just not as scary anymore, the earth flattened to a single plane. She untangles herself from the wires at her feet and moves towards the door again. A boy of about 15 is already there to take her place. His fingertips are raw from nail biting and they click at the keyboard furiously as he draws the black hood further over acne scarred cheeks. Keelan wants to know what he is looking for, but knows better than to ask. Pulling at the door, she enters the flow of people moving towards the city centre, skin burning as if a passerby will tap her shoulder and recount all of the many ways she is falling apart. No one says a word, not even when she is halfway home and a man bent on the bridge pulls a blanket further up his chest as the rain comes harder. Everyone keeps their eyes fixed firmly to their phone. She pulls hers from her pocket and logs back in. That is it for me. Hopefully the Wi-Fi worked.